I'm not a beginner fish keeper, but I am a beginner at South American cichlids and planted aquariums. It's been an exciting process. Feel free to listen to me detail my little journey, or just turn off the sound and enjoy the tank. This is my Pandemic Aquarium. It was started June 22nd, 2020. I've been in the hobby since 1997. My first job was in the fish department at a super pet here in Canada. After trying a few things, I settled on African cichlids, which I kept until I changed cities last spring. My parents bred angelfish when I was very little. That experience inspired me to challenge myself to create a South American-themed, heavily planted aquascape with either angelfish or discus. I was lucky with African cichlids. The water out of my tap was ideal. I never tested or even treated it. I just made sure it was the right temperature. That was true for the Malawi and Frans tanks I kept. The hardscape was simple, rocks I found along the river. I made some mistakes getting to this point. I'm sure I'm still making some. Any tips you have, feel free to comment below. The aquarium is 110 gallons. It's 5 feet wide, 2 feet tall, and 18 inches wide. I think the dimensions indicate that it was meant for saltwater. My first and biggest mistake was ordering fish and my filter online at the same time. The fish showed up first. I did have a small hang off the back filter moving water. It wasn't enough to cycle the tank. I had ordered black neon tetras and German blue rams. The plan was to introduce a small amount of fish to the tank and then just do plenty of water changes. It turns out that black neon tetras are an ideal fish for this. They did really well and I still have them. It was an insane idea with the German rams. They died quickly and it was my fault. After this rookie blunder, I bought a master water test kit. 7 days after starting the tank, my ammonia was 0.5, and by the next week I had no ammonia and 0.25 nitrite. I haven't positively tested for either since. It had been 11 years since I had ever even had to cycle a tank, and I was dismissive to the importance of it. Had I known any fish keepers in my new city, I would have gotten some water and biomedia from them. The black neon tetras did their job and were fine, but I would have avoided killing 6 rams. It was around this time that I started binge watching YouTube videos so I could avoid future disasters. I wanted to lower the pH to recreate the conditions in South America. The pH out of the tap here is 7.2 to 7.4, and I wanted under 7. I tried almond leaves, black water extract, and also added peat to my FX4. None of it did very much for me, although I did get it to 6.8 for a short time. I've stuck with the black water extract as I've read that it has additional nutrients the plants love. I added half the plants in July. In the summer, I was keeping the aquarium above 83 Fahrenheit. I've since lowered the temperature to 79. From what I've read, it seems like a good compromise for the plants, angelfish, and their tank mates. The first batch of plants went in before my aquascape. In fact, the aquascape is the last thing I did. I don't recommend this approach at all. I should have ordered the spiderwood and plants first. I was reluctant because I had never really paid for hardscape, and my intention was to use wood from around our house and the creek next to us. It wasn't until I was watching Josh Sim, MD Fish Tanks, and George Farmer that I even began to conceptualize what I wanted to do. If I was going to buy this many plants, I realized I needed to buy proper wood. I mentioned the size of my aquarium because it isn't ideal for a planted hardscape. 18 inches wide is too narrow. Josh Sim talks about having, I think, 6 layers to his aquascapes. My hardscape is basically spider wood in a row. It's not the most inspiring composition. I'm thinking of tightening up the wood in the middle and adding long pieces of driftwood in an X across the back. The large rock I found in my backyard, and the medium-sized ones are from a load of riverstone that we used for landscaping our garden. I love the look of riverstone. I want to balance the look of this aquarium between competition, aquascaping, and a look like it just fell together naturally. Expensive stones look stunning, but they also look unnatural to my eye. As soon as the plants arrived, I started dosing the tank with Thrive, an all-in-one plant fertilizer. I also used root tabs where appropriate. I didn't have any plants melting, which is a common problem. They all seemed really happy. By the end of July, I added panda cories, Cardinal Tetras, autosynclus catfish, and assassin snails. I'd been keeping track of water changes and parameters for 2 months on a spreadsheet. It seemed like the tank was very stable, so I took another go at adding German blue rams. They hung in there for a few weeks, but again they all died. The second time, I started reading forums to see what I did wrong. And apparently they are usually quite inbred and very temperamental. I'm not sure what to do different, and I've given up on the idea. When I started this tank in June, I was torn between angelfish and discus. Either way, I wanted fish that looked as close to wild caught as possible, but with the resilience of being tank raised. By September, it was clear with COVID-19, no one would ship discus door to door to me. So angelfish it was, and I ordered 6 Rio Nanay Scalare. They looked to me very close to wild angelfish. With my German ram experience fresh in my mind, I was glad that I was getting angelfish, as discus are much more sensitive. When they showed up, 4 were dead. I contacted the retailer and he confirmed that many of the Rios he had also died. He offered to send me some albino Dantums. Ideally, I wanted a group of 1 species, but I couldn't find anyone else selling Rios, so I took them up on it. They too also slowly died off until I ended up with just 2 of each. The angelfish were sourced from one place, and then all my other fish were sourced at another, and I'm sticking to them going forward. Other than the rams and angels, it's been nothing but a success story for the rest of my fish. And the angels I have left are very active, they recognize me, and they are voracious eaters. I think I may have a male and a female of each. I would love to breed them. I wanted a busy tank, like a little city. I chose shoaling fish, emerald and harlequin rasboras, and schooling fish, the black and cardinal tetras. The tetras are visually stunning. Sometimes the harlequins swim along with them. The emerald rasboras have a lot of character. They chase each other around constantly. For all of my fish, I keep at least the recommended number of individuals because they do better in larger groups. More than 50 fish seems like a lot, but the waste production is negligible compared to 4 mature Frontosa in the same aquarium. In November, I added the last of the plants, reorganized the hardscape. I bought white sand over worries of discus peppering, which is where they darken with patterns of small dots if the aquarium has a dark substrate. The white sand goes great with my river stones. The black sand I had already got pushed to the back, and I separated the 2 with the large rocks found in my backyard. I had one American vendor take my money for discus back in the summer, and he was cagey about a refund, so I decided to get a CO2 regulator from him since he couldn't ship my discus door to door. By November, I had also acquired the CO2 tank, tubing, and diffuser. Adding the CO2, the plants took off immediately. The Amazon sword plants were already growing like weeds, but I noticed a huge growth spurt in the Java fern, Anubias, and crypts. I also started growing algae in a major way. I'm still fine-tuning the parameters. My first step was putting the light and CO2 on a timer. They stay on for 8 hours a day. For a while, I was doing 1 bubble per second of CO2, but I've raised that to 6. I learned that fresh leaves that are yellow or leaves that develop holes in them are signs of malnutrition. Before the CO2, I was dosing fertilizer with my weekly water changes of 33%. Now I'm adding some every day, and I've upped my water change to 50% once a week. In this video, you're seeing the tank freshly pruned before there were many leaves with algae and some visible malnutrition. I'm adding notes to my spreadsheet as I try to balance the aquarium. Going forward, I want to add more carpeting plants and tie moss to the spiderwood. If it doesn't look like either pair of angelfish will reproduce, I'll try and get more Rios. I'm also hoping to get a group of apistogrammas. There is so much to learn and so many incredible resources freely available. In the description below, I am linking to a video that I did years ago of my Malawi cichlid tank, as well as links to my favorite Aquascape tutorials. Thanks for listening.